Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and agricultural meteorologist Greg Soulje is back with us today with a Friday end of the week report. Welcome, Greg.
Hey, happy Friday to you, Sarah. One and all out there on a day that continues to be, not bad for like a March or April 9th, as opposed to January 9th with some welcome rains, another round of severe weather in areas to our south over the course of yesterday evening time. And we'll take a look at that and things going forward here in the next few days and couple of weeks to come.
Very good. Let's get into it.
All right. First and foremost, onto the visible infrared satellite picture. You can see three separate weather systems, he tries to say, one through the lakes region. The feature that came on by with those organized rains and some thunderstorm activity winding its way across Indiana, southeast Indiana, and Ohio. You can see some brighter clouds down across the deep south and southeast where they're getting ready for a significant rain and severe event this afternoon. And that little curl and swirl is the next weather system that takes aim at the plains and Corn Belt locales. And nice to see some moisture. It's coming down in the form of some snow. Livestock managers, bin and barn operators for western Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle, West Texas, cotton country. Big change in temperatures there. And we'll go from rock hard grounds in those winter wheat fields to areas around Salina, Wichita that had just a few hundredths of an inch of moisture for the month of December. Some of those same central and eastern Kansas areas picked up more than an inch of rain the past 24 to 36 hours and some snow in the forecast as well. So it's feast or famine with regard to moisture there. There's kind of a plot on some of the surface observations from rain and snow in the southern high plains. A couple of thunderstorms getting going in areas in the lower Mississippi Valley Delta region. Boy, Mississippi, parts of Alabama, Louisiana will get hit this afternoon. And it was raining when we opened up the weather factory up towards Sault Ste. Marie this morning. And within an hour's time and drive west of there, it was snowing out towards Marquette. So kind of an unusual setup. And they are keeping an eye on flood potential across parts of Wisconsin and Michigan, coming off some sizable, significant rains and recent snow melt. That's the snow on the ground had as much as almost an inch water equivalency. So some of the stream and river issues are expected to mount there in the coming days to a couple of weeks. Anyway, you can see the next weather system in the upper air over the southwestern high plains. One little wiggle moving through the Great Lakes region. Another buckled weather system across Big Sky Country. Those areas just east of the divide, those upper air weather systems are the next features to come on by again through the plains and Corn Belt locales with a little more wintry look and feel. No Armageddon setup, but certainly a little more typical January look and feel going forward over the next couple of days. There's the morning weather maps and charts with one low through the Great Lakes and a cold front and a drop off in temperatures. Opened up the shop here this morning with temperatures at 55 to 60 from Champaign to Danville to Indianapolis. Those readings have since fallen on back, but there's no real Arctic air for now to deal with. So it's just marginally cooler rolling out to January over the northern and central plains. A healthy wind still heading 40 miles per hour in some of those open areas through Illinois and Indiana. There was some semis that were blown off I-57 down just south of Champaign, place called Pesodum, Illinois, yesterday afternoon and evening time. Anyway, the rains anywhere between a half to as much as an inch and a quarter. We found some pockets through central Illinois around Woodford County, southeast of Peoria. They had 2 inches of rain yesterday afternoon and evening time. And that rain is appreciated at the end of December. Topsoil moisture shortages were big time through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Some of the shorter side of the gauges were 42% short through Missouri, 40 to 36% generally speaking across Illinois, Indiana, and East Central Illinois, Central Indiana, Northwest Ohio, in that same extreme drought category. Snow is underway, as mentioned, through the southeastern parts of Colorado, 9 inches plus around the Colorado Springs area, and they'll have between 3 and 7 inches into western Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle, parts of the mountains of New Mexico, and probably a corridor of 1 to 4 in the central plains, western and northern Corn Belt going forward. And there, Salina, 1 inch and a quarter, inch and a tenth at Topeka. Those same areas had not even a tenth of an inch of moisture during the course of the month of December. So in the winter wheat field, surprisingly doing relatively well as a whole over the southern Midwest, and it's overwintering relatively well in the central and southern sections of the plains. Anyway, the showers, a couple of thunderstorms heading through the Ohio Valley. Those winter wheat fields will appreciate the rainfall, cover crops as well. And actually, as you get into the southeastern states, stream and river levels are lower than they'd like to see, and there may be as much as 1 to 2, some pockets of 2 to 4 inches of rain out of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, complete with at least faced a slight risk of severe weather down there this afternoon and evening time. So pretty action-packed down there, but the rain is much needed. Otherwise, a little frost and freeze, not anything unusual or killing of a variety around the Tucson area. A little rain and snow, scattered shower activity across the Pacific West. That atmospheric river setup is winding down. Big pattern shift to warmer and drier expected in the western states going forward for next week. Meanwhile, over the past week, don't have a lot of headlines for you from a more positive market standpoint for our domestic producers out there. Argentina, maybe the La Pampa area, suffering a little more stress, a little more dry time. Temperatures have soared at times into the lower 100-degree range there, otherwise mid to upper 90s. Those northern areas north of the La Pampa are in relatively good shape and staying that way. So it's just pockets into southern Brazil that we're keeping an eye out for. Otherwise, generally speaking, wheat is moving along with almost 90% complete harvest there, soybeans and corn at about almost 90% planted there. You get into Brazil, no news from a good news standpoint as it applies to markets and supplies and the need for domestic stuff across the U.S. Optimum growing conditions across the board. We've had some moderate shower activity down through Rio Grande do Sul and Paraná. They were dry. Now they get rain. They've had some mid to upper 90s, but now they've had rain in those same northeastern and eastern sections. The government out there towards Rio Grande do Sul said things are looking relatively well, strong growth on the bean side of things, and even some flowering beginning to go on. So there's nothing devastating, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you stand, across Brazil. And it remains, again, southern Argentina, the drier spot, but probably showing maybe somewhat better signs than anyone is really letting on to down there in South America. Meanwhile, back here this afternoon, snow in the southern high plains, showers and thunderstorms running from the Tennessee Valley into the Delta region, that red area delineating severe weather potential in the lower Mississippi Valley this afternoon. There'll be a streak of some of that snow and snow shower activity across central Kansas, same areas that saw rain the past 24 hours. So heads up on some of these feedlots as well. They'll go from muddy and mucky to firm it up, some snow on top of that and freeze it up. So footing issues will be a bit precarious going forward for the plains and across the Corn Belt. Look at the expansion of rain into the Ohio Valley, the drier areas, the Tennessee Valley. 1 to 2, again, 2 to 4 inches of rain can't be ruled out east of the Mississippi River across the Cotton Belt country. Again, sometimes these La Nina setups are not real conducive for recurring, repeating, organized rainfall in that particular part of the country. So this is of great benefit. And there may be a little snow on the ground, a skiff of it, maybe a short inch or two on colder surfaces in Sarah and mine's part of the world, and northward up into parts of Wisconsin and Michigan, and a few more snow showers and flurries for that big Packers-Bears game at Soldier Field, and a bite to the west-northwest wind, probably low to mid 30s and dropping out there on that gusty wind and a little snow in the air. Don't think it'll be anything to stick up in there in downtown Chicago, but the snows will be sticking into parts of upper Michigan again, as well as Michigan. So you go from a snow melt to a rain back over to snow, and a pretty good wind pattern as well over the course of the weekend all across the Corn Belt. Meanwhile, that red hash line is returned for now. One more crack at it and getting some milder air, and that's kind of complaints from we'll put it as a relative of Mike Pearson. She's 9, loves watching weather, but has a beef against me because I did not deliver on the white Christmas nor any days off for school going forward into the start of the school year here in January. So we'll leave it at that. You can check with Mike going forward on that story, as I heard it walking into the studio yesterday. Next couple of days, a couple of inches of rain or more. Tennessee Valley into the Delta region, and the water equivalency of 1/4 to 1/2 inch on some of that snowfall out of southeastern Colorado into Kansas. And looky here, that yellow area is a slight risk for severe weather, probably about a 40 to 50% chance for a couple of stronger storms, and that western leg of I-10 and I-20, either side of eastern Texas in through Mississippi and Alabama. The severe weather reports were dotted across Illinois, mostly wind that hit 50 to 60 miles per hour south of Champaign, I should say south of Peoria and south of Champaign, and down near the I-70 corridor as well yesterday afternoon and evening time. Any real weather hazards? Not much going forward, as we anticipate a pretty quiet spell of weather, but a return to more typical Midwestern and Plain States January weather with time next week. Just some wind issues as they've had last week as well around the Western Dakotas and parts of the Black Hills. The drought monitor should show further improvement next week, but we've made some good inroads over the southeastern Corn Belt. Work to do, but again, 3/4 to about 1 1/4 inch and a half out of east central Illinois into northwest Ohio, a little on the lower end of the spectrum in northwest Ohio, but at least some rain, and most of that's going to get percolated in with hardly any frost or freeze in the ground. And again, the rains over the deep south and southeastern states will be much, much welcome come the early fieldwork season in the southeastern part of the country, assuming they continue on. And there's a snapshot of still some of the extreme drought areas of eastern Illinois, central Indiana, and northwest Ohio. This was the snow cover back in the early first 9 days, 10 days of December. Here's the snow cover from this morning. even worse for those looking for a little more insulation and hopefully get some moisture to perk on in with the snowpack and snow cover. We're going to add to it here going forward. This is not the conclusion of wintertime, just a little kink in the longer range forecast. You can see the little trailing edge of some of the snow back in eastern Nebraska and coming on down nicely over southeastern Colorado and New Mexico. So going forward, precip is winding down across the western states. A warmer, drier spell of weather along and west of the divide as we realign the upper air configuration going forward, probably much of next week, maybe 7 to 10 days out to fully get things accomplished to where we need to be into more sense, a more typical January setup going forward for areas east of there. Rain for the eastern Corn Belt is winding down, but picking up over the deep south and southeastern states, and much colder air is on the move relative to what we've experienced. It's not anything Arctic. It's just a return to more seasonal to a little above on temperatures. Meanwhile, one more warm up gets going over areas west of the Red River Valley of the north, and that too will come down later next week. The next 7 days, the main precip events are in the northeast in New England with rain over the snow system there as we experienced in the upper Midwest and the organized rains from the Tennessee Valley to the Delta and points onto the east. The next 5 days from an upper air perspective, you can see by Wednesday, we've kind of built in a pretty sizable upper air trough. The northwesterly winds up aloft are colder, but just more seasonal. This is no Arctic air intrusion, by the way, for now. So that's the story into Wednesday and Thursday. There's a couple little ripples moving along. So want to focus on the western states, the high hit there over southward into California, may get a little Santa Ana going into Southern California. And that trough will continue to strengthen and deepen as we get these clipper systems in the upper air between Thursday, Friday, and next weekend to drop out of Western Canada. And so incrementally so, we're going to see a return to below average temperatures in areas east of the Missouri. That's going to be a kind of a shock to man and beast, I'm sure, considering the 50s and 60s the past couple of days. And each one of these, while they're not major systems, will bring a little dash of some snowfall, maybe some mixed moisture in the southern Corn Belt locales. And so you can see that system between Tuesday and Wednesday moving on through. Warm front moves out of the plain states into the Corn Belt locales, and then followed by another rush of increasing northwesterly winds Thursday to Friday. No big hairy lows on the maps and charts. They're really focused for the upper Midwest and Great Lakes areas, but they will drag down colder air going forward. It's January. What do you expect? Temperatures for the day tomorrow still pretty balmy relative to January. Upper 30s and 40s. Some cooling across the Dakotas. We'll continue with an influx of 30s and 40s and some 50s back west of the plains early next week, and begin to see temperatures level off to daytime readings, largely upper 20s and 30s in the eastern Corn Belt, 30s and low 40s, and turning colder over the western reaches towards the following weekend. So a process, a gradual winding down, maybe not necessarily coming all at once, and that can be sometimes good news with outdoor work and livestock operations in mind. There's the cold air, and it's not very, despite the hues of reds and oranges there. That's just basically just signifying these are still above average readings going in to the upcoming portion of next week. Nighttime lows generally teens and 20s, a few single digits up near the Canadian border. Like we do bring these things out, and we tend to a lot of times not complete total agreement, but it actually drives a good conversation point because mid to late month of January sets the table for February around here, and get ready for the cold. It is on the move and certainly lines up with the 8 to 14 day outlook across much of the plains and Corn Belt locales. And a return at least a more seasonal moisture, little systems that have a few hundredths of an inch to less than a quarter inch. So that's sometimes these little light to 1 to 2 to 4 inch snow systems that get going. We'll add to the snowpack and snow cover through Big Sky Country, the northern and central plains. And once we get locked into this weather pattern, Sarah, we're likely to stay that way going forward for the rest of January into February. And we'll be able to update that rest of the winter, the spring outlook coming up next Wednesday, the 14th at 1 o'clock, our half-hour live stream. Other than that, a lickety-split update for you here.
Very good. Yeah. And make sure you set your calendar for next Wednesday. And of course, we'll be touching base with Greg on Tuesday and Friday next week, as well as we return to a little winter, it sounds like.
That's right. It's coming back our way, not all at once, bits and pieces. So you've been planned and accordingly notified.
We've been warned.
Do the same.
Very good. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You too.